All right, there we go. Welcome to Wednesday. Well, good morning, everybody. So let's see. We got some news out there. First off, we got Moxie indicator on TradingView now. I know a lot of people have been asking about it. We've already got a good, solid number of people picking it up. If you have Moxie on Thinkorswim, then you get it on TradingView for free. Just ask our customer service, and they'll connect you. If you don't have it on Thinkorswim or TradingView, you can pick it up on either one. And we also have it on stock charts. So we've got the Moxie indicator on a few different platforms. And as I said, having it on TradingView is now the main, like, that's the newest one. So I know a lot of people are pretty excited about that. I figure because there are a lot of cryptos on TradingView and some other things that you can trade out there, and so people want to see that on Moxie. So we got that, and then the last newsletter that I wrote, like, will it be that obvious, is exactly what's happening today. So that is something I want to be talking about. Good morning, guys. I see you out there. Let me get this. So a little bit of news today. There's some peace talks coming out of Russia and Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine is like, I don't know how much we believe this. Go figure. So we kind of knew that any perceived good news coming out of the Russia-Ukraine conflict was going to spike the market. We knew that. It just was a matter of when. And so today, remember, we have the FOMC later this afternoon. We're expecting a 25 basis point raise. I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be one of those, buy the rumor, sell the news. And since the market's going down, it's going to be sell the rumor, buy the news. So basically, kind of once everybody gets the answer, like, oh, okay, that's over with. We've done that. We've now got the first interest rate raise since, this whole thing started. So there's that coming out there. And then we have quad witching this Friday. So we've got a lot of options expiring this Friday. And, my understanding, the put call ratio is pretty darn high, and a lot of people are hedged with some big puts that way. And so, I don't know, kind of seems like those puts might expire worthless coming up on Friday now that the market's up here. Part of what I was saying in that newsletter about will it be this obvious is everybody, was loaded up thinking that the market's going to just roll over from here and go down. And I was like, I don't know, that would be the easy play, right? And the market doesn't like to be easy. So was it really going to come in through here and just go like that? Not unless some catastrophic thing came out of probably the Russia-Ukraine situation. And honestly, over the last couple weeks, the market was having a real hard time getting lower, right? It just wasn't quite doing it. So that was something I was looking at, and that's what I was writing about. And we kind of saw that yesterday, let's see, today's Wednesday. So even Monday we saw, the markets come down like this, and it looked as though things were going to fall apart, like, right? Came all the way back down there. But where did it stop? It stopped at a previous low. And I just thought, yeah, we'll have to see. Let's see where it goes the next day, if it's really going to go lower or if it's actually going to reverse. And so yesterday, we got that reversal. We got a little bit of a move up there like that. I'll show you the UVXY too and the VIX, and show you how there were some clues there about what was going on here. And I communicated that to my subscribers yesterday. So Loco No Joco, yeah, 300% overnight. Yeah, it sounds like you got the right direction. And that was something that I was telling my subscribers, like, this market doesn't look like it wants to go lower. And it's definitely geared, all the puts down there. Everyone's hedged to the downside. So all we need is just a little bit of good news to spark a short covering rally. And it kind of looks like we got that. So yeah, we got that. A little bit follow through today. Now, in the big picture, I'm not getting too excited about this. The market is still really bad. It is still really rough out there. A lot of names are still trending down. For now, this is just noise. And honestly, we've kind of been looking for a move up, like kind of a relief rally of some sort before we go lower. I really think that we're still in a downtrend. I mean, if you guys really want to be, look at that. The daily 50 has now crossed below the daily 200. Technically, that's a death cross, right? So the only thing that I've been kind of saying is, let's get a relief rally. Let's get a short covering rally. Let's get a move back up before we go short again. So, as I said, I'm not getting too excited about this. This is something that we can trade. This is something we can play with. And if we look at our previous patterns like that, this is just the first move, right? Now, it might push longer. It might go for a couple days or something like that. But ultimately, we're still going to have to see price come back down to the hourly 50 before we can really decide if this thing's going to go up, right? Because what did we do before? You can see, like, right here, we had a huge move over the hourly 50, and then eventually it came back down to the 50. Okay, so that's why I'm like, okay, this is the first move in a series of moves, and when what we know out there and how these things behave. And so that's this is really kind of what I'm modeling it after. So there could be a little bit more of a move upside, and that move right here on the hourly chart did take us up to the daily 50. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm expecting this to generally take us to the daily 50. It might go just under it, might go beyond it. Like, we don't know yet, but I think that's whenever this thing gets going, I think that's probably in the cards, is basically the daily 50. And even on the daily chart for now, again, that's why I'm not like, okay, this is just the first move. We'll have to let's look for a pullback. Let's see if that pullback holds, and if it holds, then we can do something about that. I'm not too worried about either missing this or taking advantage of it right this moment. We got the FOMC later today. We got options expiry on Friday. I'm not super inclined. If you guys want to be day trading this or short-term trading it, fine. But as far as like swing trading, we still got some moves that we have to go through before we can really do something like that. As I said here, the daily 8 and 21. It's still to the downside. There's still going to be some noise. There's still going to be some chop. Like this isn't necessarily saying anything, totally conclusive yet. And then if we look at the NASDAQ, it's basically doing the same thing. Got a little oversold. The other thing I was telling my subscribers yesterday, I think it was actually, is that, look, we have not touched the daily 50 in a long time. Now, the S&P did back when it first did it, but there's a pretty big gap between price and the daily 50. And I often talk about that, about how far for any move, any stock, how far is price away from the 50, whether it be the hourly or the daily or the 15, like whatever time frame I'm looking at. And I think that there's a huge distance between there. And I think that at some point that's going to have to be fixed. I think it's going to want to go back up there, hit it, and then roll over again. So there's going to be some action coming up. The last 2 weeks, there's been a little bit of action, but it's just been kind of sleepy. And honestly, it looked like things were kind of getting ready to turn around. And that's what we're seeing now. So then let's go over and look at the IWM. This one, yeah, I've been saying this one looks the most ready to roll over. Like it's just doing a bear flag like this, just flagging sideways, waiting for that daily 50 to come in contact and before it goes lower. But it just couldn't get lower. I mean, look at this thing. It just could not get lower. And so I thought about that. And I thought, okay, we just need to be careful with this. Things are just choppy. Like there's not a whole lot to do here unless you can take trades on the 5 or the 15 minute, something to that extent. I mean, this is totally just chop. Now we'll have to see during this whole process, how high does the IWM want to go before rolling over? Because again, if price moves up over the daily 50 in any capacity, the daily 50 is still in a downtrend, right? Price should not be going up across a downtrending daily 50. So if it gets there, if it gets over there, it's a matter of time until it pulls back again. So I also think if we look at, say, the higher time frame here on the daily or the weekly and monthly, other than just getting a little bit oversold, like it's in the middle of nowhere. Why is this thing bouncing? Why is it going sideways? Other than that third ATR, there's really no reason. So I don't think that this whole bear market or correction is over yet. Like it hasn't capitulated. That's the other thing. The other thing is not over yet. So I would not be surprised that eventually we see the IWM come back to the weekly 200, which is about the monthly 50. So big picture, I definitely think that there's more downside. This is just a relief rally. And then if we look at the Dow, this was another thing that I was looking at yesterday, thinking this is kind of telling me it wants to go higher. Because what is this? You can see here is just kind of building a base. It looked like it wanted to kind of keep pushing up, and look at the Moxie indicator. It kept pushing up. And even in through here, that wasn't really falling apart. It wasn't too bad. The Moxie indicator was mostly staying over 0. So there were a lot of things in here that were telling me like, it's just having a hard time getting lower. And we can see the result of that now. So, but also, as I said earlier about the SPY, give this thing some time. There's going to be some moves. If we look at before, you can see here, there was that big move, and what it do, it eventually pulled back to the hourly 50. So same thing, we got a nice big move, and you know what? Eventually it's going to pull back to the hourly 50. All right. Now we'll have to see what happens after that. If it pulls back to the hourly 50 and moves up, okay, you can do something with that. But if it pulls back to, say, the hourly 50 and then keeps going down, well, you're going to have to take that into account too. So yeah, we just got some moves and some noise and some happenings, and we'll just have to see where it goes. And then let's see, SOXX, if we look at the semis, I mean, look how noisy this thing is. Yeah, it's a pretty solid move today, but man, that's noisy. That That's a tough thing to be walking into, which I did. We made some money on this, and then we traded another one, and at that point, I was like, this is just noise. I'm going to get out of this. And yeah, so not doing anything with that right now. And then the other thing I kind of want to show you is if you look at, say, some examples, ADT. This is the possibility of things that we're stepping into. So yes, there was a pretty big move today, but you know what? There was a pretty big move back here, and there was a pretty big move here, and there was a pretty big move here. But ultimately, where did it go? I mean, this thing has just basically been in a box and not going anywhere. That is something that we have to take into account with the market itself. The S&P might ultimately kind of not go very far or go anywhere. It could continue to just chop. So, just be careful about the news out there today. The Russia-Ukraine thing is still a hot potato, basically. It's terrible what's going on over there, but, it's news-driven, and we have to deal with it, and that's what's going on. And then, another example I was just kind of coming across, let's see, AFMD. If I would type in, there we go, AFMD. Look at this. So look how long something like AFMD has been trying to base and trying to get somewhere, and it's really not responding too much today. So, I'm just, as I said, I'm not doing too much about this. We've got FOMC, we've got options expiry. Yes, the market's up, but typically we do see pullbacks within a move to the upside. So it's like, just be careful with it of what's going on out there. Let's see. So UVXY, that was another thing that I wanted to show you. I haven't been taking any action on this, mostly just because, as I said, we got the FOMC and we got some stuff going on, and I didn't really want to be doing much with this. But what I was guiding my subscribers about yesterday, and actually or earlier in the week, was the 50, 200, 50 maneuver on the daily chart. Now, I had to give it a little bit of a caveat. It is the UVXY, it's volatility, it'll do whatever it wants, but it still seems to be behaving the way that a normal stock should, in the way that I talk about stuff and that my patterns work. So the fact that the UVXY was getting rejected by the daily 200 told me that it was likely that price was going to head to the daily 50 at some point. And that's exactly what's happening. We also saw a little bit of difference in through here. So let's see, where can I kind of point this out? I was looking in through here as some levels, and you can see that the Moxie indicator was running down. But more so, what we could look at is here's the overall double top, and look at the negative divergence on the Moxie indicator right there. So double top, negative divergence, that is 100% typical Moxie setup type stuff. And that's what I was able to really look at and point fingers at and describe to traders about what was going on. The other thing, so for those of you who maybe don't have the Moxie indicator, or if you do and you're trying to learn how to use it, this is how the Moxie indicator communicates to me. And it speaks to me. Like, this is really telling you something. Look how messy that move is, right? For the Moxie indicator going green and then red and then green and then red and then green and then red, it's just all over the place. That is not a smooth move up. A better move for the indicator is something like that. Look how nice that is. You get a little bit of a blip right there, but otherwise that thing is green. They get a little pullback and then it continues green. That is a solid move with good energy. This thing looks like it's trying to get pulled up, kicking and screaming, like it doesn't want to go. And not only does it not want to go up, look how low it is compared to the previous high of price. There's that negative divergence I was talking about. So I've been eyeing this, and as the Moxie indicator is telling me that this move up on the UVXY is not very energetic, and that it's running into the underside of the daily 200, was telling me that the UVXY is likely to turn the other direction and go down. And if the UVXY is going to go down, that means the market's going to go up. So I've been doing a lot of, Sherlock Holmes detective work, kind of looking around the market, figuring out, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And this is what I've been communicating to the Moxie subscribers and our us as a trading team, and saying, yeah, I think the market's going to go up. So do what you need to do to position for that. Don't go load up on the S&P or the indexes short. It's not the right opportunity, not like right now. And this is what's happening. So I think that's worked out pretty well for us. But as I said, I do think that the market is still in a general downtrend. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens when the UVXY comes back down to the daily 50, because typically this is a bullish setup. So if the UVXY comes back down here or even below, and then it starts to turn back up like this, that's really going to speak. That's going to be real interesting. That's going to be like the next rollover for the market. So I want to keep a pretty good eye out for that. and take advantage of the market to the short side whenever that starts to set up. But we're just gonna have to look and wait and watch for it. You know, that's time. We're just gonna have to wait. All right, yeah, good to see you guys in the chat box and everything. Some of the stuff we can go through. Let's talk about gold. Let's look at gold, since that is one of the bigger things we've been talking about out there. It's still pulling back. Mostly what I've been calling attention to is that double top, like major double top. You can see it on the monthly, the weekly, and the daily, right in through there. And then just, if you guys are trading gold or trading anything, literally anything really, that has a move like that, you got to know when to get out. You got to know when to cash out, take some profits off, say thank you to the market, and then just understand that a pullback is pretty much around the corner, and you do not want to initiate a position like that when you're a position long on something like that. Don't get suckered into it. You see that it's huge up there. It's like, wow, that's very exciting. Like, it's going to keep going. Nah, it's not. It's gonna peter out at some point. They just don't go vertical like that for too long. And you could see that it was outside of the third ATR. You could see it was just so far off of the daily 8 EMA, all the things, even here on the hourly chart, it just went vertical. That's like blow off top territory. And then the other thing I was telling those subscribers and the rest of the simpler trading team is look at the 15-minute time frame right there. You see how price flagged right into the underside of that downtrending moving average, and look at the Moxie indicator. It's below zero. It's negative. It's definitely not positive. I mean, look at that. That's a perfect. You want to short something like that, fine, but that is a warning to you that if you're long, this thing's probably going to keep going down. I mean, everything about that says this thing's going down, and so when you see that in your own trades, if you're long, you better take some more off, or at least just be prepared for it. So don't be too surprised when you see something like that. And right now, yeah, gold is still pulling back. Where's the bottom? I don't know. I don't see it yet. It is getting a little bit oversold on the hourly chart because it's coming outside of that third ATR. It is at the hourly 200. Is that going to be support? I don't know yet. All I can tell you is it hasn't turned. This thing is still below the 15-minute 50. The Moxie indicator is telling me nothing on the 15-minute time frame. They're below zero. They're spread. Like, there's nothing to do here. And even here on the hourly chart, the Moxie indicator is now really far below zero. So if this thing is going to turn around and start going back up, it's going to be a while. It's got to go through a process of turning and changing direction, building that base, and starting to move back up. So, don't jump into this thing too early. I'm not a big dip buyer. Don't just buy it because it's low like this. It could keep going lower. I have no idea. I like to be a trend trader, and so far the trend hasn't changed yet from this pullback. We're just going to have to wait and see when that is. All right, let's see. Michael Bumble, huh? BMBLs or something on that one. It's hitting the hourly 200. Do you think it is hitting the resistance level? Looking to short it in the short term. Well, gosh, I was talking to a bunch of subscribers yesterday when I was on the mic, and honestly, we were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on some of these things. There were a lot of moves that were down a lot. And I was like, well, clearly you don't want to short it because it's already very low. It's outside of those third ATRs. And I don't want to go long either because I don't really want to go long on a stock that is clearly going down and damaged and getting sold into. Like you'd be trying to trade a pop that might or might not happen. And so at that point, it was basically in no man's land because there's nothing to do with it. And I kind of feel like Bumble's a little bit of the same situation. I'm not so sure that I want to go bottom feeding or bottom fishing for this kind of stuff. Yeah, it looks like it's got the, an elf shoe right there. Looks like it could be possibly doing that. It is doing a, 50, 250 maneuver here on the hourly, and it did hold the 15-minute 50 right there. So there is reason for this thing to be up like this. I mean, it is, as I said, holding these moving averages pretty nicely. But generally speaking, the hourly 200 is still in a downtrend. The daily 50 is still in a downtrend. And it hasn't really convinced me that it wants to go up. Remember, look at the couple of tickers that I was talking about earlier, like AFMD, just as an idea, just so you can be prepared for what these things may or may not do. If you jump into Bumble, what happens if it does this? It's going nowhere. And that's the risk. That's why I'm saying I personally am not super interested in trying to trade something like Bumble that is basically still in a downtrend and might not go anywhere. Like, this is a pretty challenging market to try and find some stuff like that. So just be aware that it may or may not go someplace. If it does go someplace and you're able to catch a trade, then great. I know you're trying to short Bumble. You know, it's pretty low. I don't know if it really has the appetite. Go back to Bumble. I don't know if this thing has the appetite to really go much lower right now. Like, it seems like it's trying to actually bottom and try to move up. So again, for me, no man's land. I don't really want to do anything with this thing. Let's see. So yeah, Austin, you bought gold and silver. Let's take a look at silver and holding the weekly 8. So let's look down here on the weekly. Yeah, I see that it's come back down to the weekly 8, and yeah, you could even see that it was a little bit overbought because right there, off the 8 back to the 8, right? So there was a bit of a gap, got overbought, and came back down. Now, is it going to hold the weekly 8? Is it going to hold the weekly 50? I don't know. I'd have to look at the lower time frames and see what it's up to. And kind of the same thing I was saying about gold, because they're going to be trading together. I don't see it turning yet. So Austin, for you, if this works for you, you kind of see price coming into a level and you like to just buy at that level, hey, more power to you. But for me, it hasn't turned yet. So I don't know what it's going to do. It could go lower, it could chop. You know, I'm just not convinced of that the low is in, mostly because I want it to be going back up before I actually get in. So, you know, that's my deal. All right, then yeah, so Gasan, as far as Baba, you know, a lot of the Chinese stocks had a huge rebound. I guess I heard news. Let me see if this news is accurate, but basically, Beijing capitulates. Hong Kong markets jump by most ever after China vows to prop up markets. Okay, well, you know, there's a big move to the upside, but do you see the down move that was also happening? So again, is there anything to do with this? For me, I ain't touching this. I do not want to get anywhere near these Chinese stocks. Absolutely not. Because the whole reason why they fell off a cliff this last time and are going down is because a few stocks are in danger of getting delisted. You know, it's that whole China doesn't want to open their books, doesn't want their companies to open their books. And if a couple of these get delisted, there might be more that get delisted. And then you don't know who's going to get delisted. And investors are like, I don't want to risk my money like that if it just goes poof. So that's why they fell off a cliff and started going down. Well, okay, so it spiked today. Was there anything to do? Did you know that the news was going to come out today so that you could have bought this right here? There's nothing to do. I don't see anything to do. It is bouncing. It is still not in an uptrend. And just like that AFMD, this thing could just chop for a while. Zero things to do here for me. And I don't even know what to tell you otherwise. Like, it's just untouchable. Untouchable. Yeah, and if you were shorting these things, you know, all I could say is if you're shorting it, I hope you cashed in at some point, because when you get a big move like that to the downside that gets too oversold and outside of those 30 ATRs, it's excessive. It's the same thing as gold. It just turned it upside down. I was telling you, gold was straight up. It was outside of the 30 ATRs. It was like going vertical. You get out, you take your profits on something like that. And something like Baba, if you happen to have been short, same thing. When this thing gets excessive, like it was going vertically down, you take your money. You cash in some. You just say, okay, thanks. Hey, that was a good trade. You know? So, yeah. Let's see. mRNA short. No. Same, guys. I'm sorry, but this market is a tough market. Like, I'm not going to see a whole lot of things to do. If anything, it looked like mRNA was trying to stop going down. I mean, it has gotten beat up, really beat up. And you can see that there is a huge gap between price and the daily 50. And so far, it's filled that gap. It's come back to the daily 50, which is kind of what I was talking about the S&P too. You know, when you get too far away from moving averages, they do want to come back up and you know, hit those things. The other thing is, look at that. The Moxie indicator was over 0. So the Moxie indicator staying over 0 for so long was basically telling you, hey, there's upward energy, upward momentum that this thing is going to want to turn around into. But for as much as that, it's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be shorting this. It looks like it's trying to stop going down, so maybe you shouldn't be shorting this. But do you want to go long? I don't want to go long. I mean, I'm not really into this. I don't really want to do this. If anything, it's running right into the underside of the daily 50. That could get rejected right there. It could push over. I don't know. So that is not something that I want to be doing. Also, just as a reminder for anybody else who was tuning in later or anything, the Moxie indicator is now available on TradingView. I know a lot of people have asked about that and are very interested in trading Moxie indicator on TradingView. So it's there. If you have the Moxie indicator on Thinkorswim, you can get it on TradingView for free. So just talk to our customer support. If you don't have it, then you can pick it up. You can pick it up for TradingView and Thinkorswim at the same time. So we got that. Let's see. Apple, it's going to be bouncing a little bit today, but again, what are we doing here? Apple's just bouncing. It's still in a downtrend. There's nothing to do here. I just don't see anything to do. It has moved from the lower third ATR to the upper third ATR. And unless you are a very quick short-term trader, there's nothing to do here. I just don't see anything. Got a little oversold. It got below the 200. Maybe it's bouncing a little bit. But until until there's more time that goes by and more twists and turns, until there's a clearer setup, there's just nothing to do here. If we look at XLE, we were talking about this kind of the same thing with gold, metals, agriculture stuff. They had a huge move that got super overbought. Same situation. They all went vertical, know when to take your money, and these things have then pulled back. Are they going to keep pulling back? Is the move done? We don't know yet. It's still pulling back. The one thing I can show you, so if you guys have the Moxie indicator and you're looking at this and you're long, look at this. This is the benefit of the Moxie indicator right here. You see what that is? That is an inverse trampoline move on the 15-minute time frame. And that is a routine setup that I talk about, inverse trampoline move. You should not be long on an inverse trampoline move. Of course, it depends on your time horizon. Maybe you're trading XLE over the course of months, and so this is just noise, no big deal. But if you're a short-term trader or you were looking to add something because you're like, oh, hey, there's a pullback, and look at this. Price is sitting on the 15-minute 50. It's going to keep going up. The point of the Moxie indicator is it was telling you this is not a good time to go long. In fact, it's probably going to go down. It's probably going to keep pulling back because the Moxie indicator is below 0 while the price is over the 50. That is an inverse trampoline move. And so we saw that on XLE. I saw it on a couple other things that were very, very overbought. And that gave me a clue that like, no, things are going to be pulling back. All right. Yeah, I see a couple other questions, and let's see. Yeah, so Larry, I'm not worried about the positions we're in. A lot of this stuff is just noise. Like AN, we're looking at this. This I still view as an inverse trampoline move. Look, price is over the daily 50. The Moxie indicator is still below 0. And we have the daily 50 underneath the daily 200. So it's really just a matter of time until I think that these things roll over again. Because remember, I think the market is eventually going to go down. It just needs a relief rally. The other thing that we could be looking at here on the hourly chart, it's not confirmed yet because it's still moving up. But if we look at this, we're basically coming into a previous high and the Moxie indicator is lower. So we're going to have to keep watching that. But if we look, that inverse trampoline move that I see on the daily chart, if you look at, say, an example of TPX right here, you see how price right there got over the daily 50 and you see how the Moxie indicator was below 0? Inverse trampoline move. Now, as I said, it took a little bit. It kept moving up for a bit. But when this thing rolled over, look at the move to the downside. Look at that thing. That was a really, really solid move to the downside. And it all began with an inverse trampoline move on the daily chart. So just like that 15-minute XLE inverse trampoline move, it's the same structure, same setup. And so if you look at AN, it's doing the same thing. So it's just a matter of time. In this market, I'm giving things more wiggle room, more room to kind of move around because this market is just, all over the place. But eventually, I do think this thing's going to roll over. We'll just have to figure out when it wants to do it. So I'm not too worried about that. I've taken more heat on some other names in this time, and they've worked out. So I do think that the overall trend of the market is still down, and we're just going to be patient on some of these things. All right, Don, I'll answer yours because I was actually thinking, again, Costco short. We've kind of been talking about Costco short. I haven't found the entry on it. I've been talking to some other subscribers who've been asking about this. I said, yeah, I think eventually Costco will be a short. I don't see it yet, but the same reason for AN, the same reason for TPX. Look at this. You got price over the daily 50, and you see the Moxie indicator below 0. That's an inverse trampoline move. The other situation that I don't like as far as a long is look at price trying to go up and look at the moving average going down. Isn't that a conflicting direction? isn't the definition of an uptrend is when price is following an uptrending moving average? Right now, that moving average is pointing down. These are conflicting angles. So price should not be going up against a downtrending moving average. Plus, we have the Moxie indicator below zero. So some point, someday, I think this thing is going to roll over. You just have to find out when and where and how. And I think that's what we're going to be looking for. So I would not be long Costco, not unless you're very, very short dated. All right. This has been very messy. It's uncomfortable. Yes, it's moving up. I think eventually it's going to roll over. So I'd be very, very careful about that. Oh, yeah, Larry, new subscriber, learning. Yeah. You've stepped into a very tumultuous market. It is not an easy time right now. So you're going to be learning a lot. There's definitely going to be a lot of lessons through here. And yeah, some of it's going to be about patience. For example, this Costco thing, I think it's going to eventually turn over. So yeah, there's a lot out there. Let's see. Technical question. Once a day is finished and the Moxie has a value, is that value set, or does additional data in the following days cause a backward change? It depends on the time frame you're looking at. So like this one is going to be, that one takes a few days, so it's not going to be painting on the day. This one will be painting every day, and then this one would be painting intraday. So they don't backwards paint. They just they have different time frames on what they actually close for. So yeah, keep watching that, and that's why I'm an end of day trader pretty much, because it helps everything basically stick to where it's going to be. But yeah, if you're over, sounds like you've got the Moxie indicator, come over to the Moxie room, talk to me there, and happy to answer your questions. So there you go. There you go, guys. Enjoy your day. Yep, market's up, but I'm not really doing much with this thing. The short squeeze, yeah, but there are still some moves, and I would not be surprised to see a pullback in the next couple of days, just because that's the typical patterns that I see. So, yep, fun stuff to be navigating. All right, guys, I'll talk.